Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Willow Creek. Thank you guys all so much for being here. So in today's video, we are going to be making some really fun things. I have 3 recipes that I have never tried before that I want to give a try before Thanksgiving is coming up. I think these are all going to be absolutely fantastic. We are going to be making a cranberry croissant brie bite as an appetizer. Then we are also going to be making a caramelized onion and bacon dip as an appetizer option. And then we are going to be making sweet potato gratin. Now, I'm not entirely sure how you say that, like potato au gratin or potato au gratin, whichever way you pronounce it. I have made the regular potato version before, but I've never tried it with sweet potatoes, and my family loves sweet potatoes, so I thought that this would be a twist on a regular dish, maybe more suited for Thanksgiving. So we are going to be making all 3, and then I'm going to be going to my in-laws tomorrow and allowing them to try them so we can decide if we want to add 1 or 2 or all of them to the holiday festivities for Thanksgiving. So that is what we are going to be working on today. I have all of the stuff laid out, and we will get started on the caramelized onion bacon dip because that does require a little bit of cooking. The caramelized onions are going to take a bit, and then doing the bacon first so that I can use the grease from that is probably where I'm going to start, but here is the ingredients, and don't worry, I will leave everything down in the description box for you guys if you are interested in giving them a try. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so first and foremost, you guys, I'm just gonna start getting the bacon cooked up. It says that we need 1 pound, and this is exactly 1 pound, but this is like a lot of bacon. I mean, we do enjoy bacon, but that just seems like a lot of bacon. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use my scissors and cut the package in half here, get my stove flipped on to a medium so that this can start cooking. And I will save the rest of this bacon in the refrigerator. So get that set out of the way for now, and we will get this going in our skillet. And then it's saying that we need to use the bacon grease to caramelize the onions in. So that's why I am getting this going first, because this will take just a little bit of time. And then we can work on the brie croissant bites, which sound absolutely delicious. That's probably the recipe that is going to take the least amount of time because it's just a couple things and then we bake it. So go ahead and let this be working for us while we do that, and then we can come back. I went ahead and washed my hands really good. I don't know about you guys, but I hate the feeling of bacon grease on my hands. It drives me nuts. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a little Ziploc baggie and stick the rest of the other side of that bacon in the refrigerator so that I can use it for later or for another recipe. Okay, so while our bacon is cooking away, we can get started on the brie bites. Now, this recipe does call to use a small muffin tin, you guys, but all I have is the bigger muffin tin. So I'm just gonna cut this and then lay it on a baking sheet and do it that way because I don't have the small muffin tin. So if you want like an actual like rounded bite, you know, to put your toppings and stuff in, definitely go ahead and use that. But I'm just going to utilize what I have because if it's shaped like a circle or a square, I don't think it's going to matter much. So first and foremost, we need to cut these into little cubes here. So I'm just going to start making cuts like this in our dough. You could even roll these. Like if you wanted to leave this like this, you could even roll the toppings and things up in them and leave them like that also. That would also be equally good, I'm sure. So then I'm just gonna take my knife and run it back this way and start making the little squares. And they don't have to be perfect. If you have some of them that are a little bit bigger or longer or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're going to taste just fine either way. Okay, so I just went ahead and laid down some parchment paper, and then I'm gonna start taking these and just placing them on it. And if they have the little ridges in between where you've cut them, you can kind of just go back and push all of that down. This piece right here was a little bit long, but like I said, it doesn't really matter. You'll just have to put more toppings on some of these pieces. Okay, so the next step, oh, I dropped some. The next step is to start adding some cranberry sauce to the top of these. And I do have home canned cranberry sauce, but it's a little bit old. So I thought, you know what, instead of canning a whole bunch to do this recipe, I'm just gonna go ahead and buy a can, but canning some more cranberry sauce is definitely on my list of things to do this season. So I'm gonna go ahead and get each of these topped with the cranberry sauce. Okay, so after each of the croissants is topped with cranberry sauce, we are gonna put 1 slice of Brie cheese to each top. After all of these have cheese on them, then we're gonna take some pecans and sprinkle them on top. Now, I just bought the regular whole size pecans because I figured I could just put maybe like 1 or 2 on each of these little bites. But if you would like to chop them up and sprinkle them on, feel free. Now, this recipe does call for fresh rosemary, you guys, but I have dehydrated rosemary here, and I really didn't want to pay as much as they were asking for fresh rosemary. It's very expensive, and obviously I don't have any here because my garden is done. So I'm just going to sprinkle the tops of each one of these with rosemary, just the dehydrated stuff that I have here. And I think these are going to be so delicious, you guys. I'm not like a super, super big fan of Brie cheese. I mean, I can tolerate it. It doesn't like bother me too terribly much on certain applications, like when there's something sweet with it. But if you're not a big fan of Brie cheese, you could also use like Swiss or mozzarella or, you know, whatever kind of white cheese you wanted to substitute it with. But I do think that this is going to be really, really good with the cranberries. And this is just for my family and friends. Now, if I was taking this somewhere and wanted the presentation to be, you know, a little bit better, obviously I would do the smaller muffin tins. But just to kind of give it a try before we decide if we're going to do it or not for Thanksgiving, this will be just fine. Okay, so these are all done, and then you just want to follow the baking instructions for whatever croissant you're using. Mine are 375 for 10 to 13 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and get these put in the oven, and then we will start working on the caramelized onions. Okay, so I went ahead and got the bacon off the stove. It is on a plate over there, just sitting and letting the grease drain. So now I'm gonna flip my stove back up to about a medium-ish. And the caramelized onion bacon dip is calling for 2 medium yellow onions. So that's what I have here. We'll start cutting them up and adding them over there. I did go ahead and save all of the bacon grease, so these can just start caramelizing in that. And I've seen a lot of people raving about caramelized onion dip. I've never tried it. However, I do love caramelized onions. My family and I are really big fans of onions, and I am very excited to try this. So we will get started on all of these and get them in the pan. My husband is actually out hunting today, so fingers crossed he gets a buck. And if he does, then our day is going to consist of doing some processing of the deer that he got. So just waiting for him to call and say he either got one or didn't get one, and then we'll be able to go from there. But hoping he did. We usually try to, I mean, obviously my husband tries to get, there's our oven going off for the Brie bites. It's warmed up, but my husband always tries to get at least 1 buck per year, and then we try to get 2 to 3 does so that we have deer meat all year long. So fingers crossed he gets his buck. And definitely don't turn the heat up super high, you guys, because these need to caramelize low and slow. So if you have it up a super high heat, you could risk burning them instead of caramelizing them. So I would do it just really, really slow. Low and slow is usually always best. I would love to hear some of your guys' favorite recipes for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I try to get creative every year because I typically am not cooking a big Thanksgiving dinner. Usually my husband and I are attending the dinners, and it's not because I wouldn't absolutely love to do that. It's just my house is not very accommodating for a big group of people. So usually I bring things with me and I try to get creative every year, but I always love hearing about other people's recipes or things that you make that are maybe a little bit like non-traditional. I think it's really cool that everybody has came up with so many different things to take to the holidays with them that are either like twists on classic recipes or just things that you wouldn't normally think about taking and doing like a twist on it for the holidays. So I would love to hear what your guys' favorite recipes are, or if maybe you tried something that you were a little hesitant about and then it turned out to be really good and your family enjoyed it. Okay, so all of the onions are in over here. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw in a little bit of salt, and we will just let them do their thing on the stove for a bit. It does say to add a couple tablespoons of brown sugar as they get closer to being done, so I will watch for that. And like whenever they have about 10 minutes left, we'll throw some of that in. I've never thought to add brown sugar to caramelized onions. Usually I just do them in the stove and don't add any sweetness, so I think that's gonna be really good. So the timer just went off for the croissant bites. So let's get them out. Oh my goodness. Look at how beautiful. Aren't those stunning? Those look really pretty. Hopefully you guys can see them. Some of these are not bites, they're logs. So if you want like bites, definitely cut them down smaller, but this one it's not a bite, it's a log. But they look absolutely beautiful. So I'm gonna let those sit over there and cool down for a little bit. And our onions are still over here trucking away, just cooking down. And we are gonna get started on shredding some cheese. So for the caramelized onion bacon dip, it calls for 1 cup of Gouda cheese. So hopefully I can get at least 1 cup out of this. If not, we'll put in some other cheese to go with it. And then the sweet potato gratin calls for Gruyere. I don't know how you pronounce that. Please don't come for me on how I pronounce things because I'm not very good at it, but this kind of cheese. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my shredder down and get 1 cup of each because each recipe requires 1 cup. So 1 block it is for each of the recipes we are making. And then as soon as those croissant bites cool down, we will try them together. And I'm so incredibly excited to do so because it smells amazing. They look fantastic. Okay, so this is my little shredder. I love this because it has one of these little pull-out drawers at the bottom. If you don't have one with a pull-out drawer at the bottom, I would highly suggest you get one. That way you don't have to put this whole thing like over a bowl. This has come in really handy for me. So we will start with the Gruyere cheese. Go ahead and get this out of the package and start getting it shredded up. Now, I've never tried Gruyere cheese. It smells good. I'm not super picky. There's only like a couple of things that I myself don't really care for, and my husband's the same way. So usually anytime I make a new recipe, even with some things like this cheese that I've never heard of, I know most likely we will enjoy it and like it. But if you don't like this cheese or the Gouda cheese, you can find another substitute to add in. Shredding cheese is not my favorite thing to do. I have like really bad carpal tunnel in my hands from working in construction for 9 years. So anything that like requires a lot of oomph for my wrist and my fingers just kills my hands. I need to get like an automatic shredder, but I do not have that. Well, actually, I guess I could use my food processor, but I really don't want to drag that out for just the 2 little blocks that I'm doing. Okay, so got that shredded, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add this to a bowl until we are ready for it. And then I'm just re-shredding cheese in it again, so I'm not going to go ahead and wash it out. But then I'm going to get this Gouda block shredded. You guys, I swear every single time I like do my hair, it never fails. It's raining or there's tons of moisture in the air outside and it just so apologies if I look kind of like a lion right now because it's getting there. And then I am going to go ahead and just cut off the rind on the outside. Now you can keep the little rind part for different things if you'd like to. I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to get this removed. Okay, so that little block again was about the perfect amount for the Gouda. So I'm just going to stick it in a bowl. All right, guys, so while everything is kind of at a standstill at the moment, before I start chopping up the sweet potatoes, I want to taste one of these Brie croissant bites with you. How cute is that? I'm really excited. So, cheers. That is really good, you guys. Wow. That is incredible. I could eat that every day. Not even just for Thanksgiving. I could eat that every day. And that is very inexpensive to make. Very limited ingredients, very quick. If you don't have like a big budget to bring, you know, a super expensive side with you, that is fantastic. And I guarantee it would be a crowd pleaser. Really, really good. A+. Super happy that those turned out good. Like I said, I'm not a super big fan of Brie cheese, but in some dishes and things that are incredibly sweet are really good. You could also use the cranberry sriracha pepper jelly as a topping on that, or any kind of jam or jelly that you make or may have on hand. If you haven't seen that video, I will leave it above. It's fantastic, and that would be another really good way to use that up, is putting it on something like that. Really good. Okay, so next I'm gonna start working on the sweet potato gratin. For the first step of this recipe, we need to mix 3/4 cup of milk and 3/4 cup of cream. And then we're going to start finely chopping our potatoes and layering them. But in order to layer them, we need the mixture that we pour in between them to be done. So I just have a 2-cup measure here. I'm gonna fill up to the 3/4 line with milk and then the 3/4 line with cream. And then we will get started on thinly slicing our sweet potatoes. And the recipe calls for about 2 medium-sized sweet potatoes, so I did go ahead and get some peeled, and we will start chopping these. So here is 3/4 cup of milk, and then I'm going to add the 3/4 cup of cream. We are going to start. Now, I do have a mandolin, you guys, and if you want to use a mandolin, go for it. I just don't feel like getting mine out at the moment because it is still in the package, and I haven't used it yet. So we are going to thinly slice these as thin as we can get them. And we are going to start drizzling in this mixture and the cheese with just some seasonings. And then it does call for a little bit of Parmesan in between each layer. So this is the most tedious part. Try and get them, you know, about as thin as you can, and try to keep them as even as you can. So after we get these sliced down, we will start layering them in my cast iron. And you don't have to use a cast iron. I'm just using this so I can put the whole thing in the oven at one time. Feel free to use a baking dish or anything that you have on hand. And then basically what we're going to start doing is we're going to start making a layer and getting these put in a circle. Start going all the way around and covering the bottom of the pan. And depending on how many layers you want, you guys, you could use more than just 2 sweet potatoes. We'll see how far I get, but I might have to grab another one too. Depends on how big of a dish you want to use or how much you want to make. Okay, so after this whole bottom is covered, we're going to take this milk and cream mixture and basically just go over it just a tad here. We will end up using all of that, by the way, but you do want to do it kind of just like in sections. So then we're going to take a little bit of this Gouda and sprinkle it on this top layer. And then I am going to take a little bit of the Parmesan and just sprinkle it through. Now, the Parmesan can get really, really potent, so I'll probably just do that every other layer, or maybe just that layer and on the top. So then after that, I'm going to go ahead and season with a little bit of garlic and some rosemary. And then we are just going to keep repeating that process until we get to the end of both of these sweet potatoes. Okay, so I am at the last layer on here, and I still do have quite a bit of this mix left, but it did say to make sure that it is all covered. So I'm just going to use the last of it up and make sure that every part of those sweet potatoes is covered in the liquid. If you don't use all of the liquid, that's okay, but you definitely do want to make sure that all of the sweet potatoes have the liquid on that. So there is that, and then we are going to go ahead and finish topping with our Gouda cheese. Again, if you don't like Gouda, you could get a different kind of cheese to top this with. It doesn't have to be Gouda cheese. And I did put more Parmesan in one of the layers, you guys, so I'm not going to add more to the top because, like I said, that can get really, really pungent. So there's that, and then we will just sprinkle on some more garlic. Okay, so this is ready to put in the oven, and I forgot to mention I did preheat my oven to 400 degrees. We are going to cook this for about 30 minutes and check and see if it needs any longer, and then I will let you guys see what it looks like whenever it's all done. I am so incredibly excited to try this. Like I said, I have made it with the regular white potatoes before, but I've never tried it with sweet potatoes, so I think that that's going to be really good. Onions are still cooking down, but they do only have probably like 10-ish minutes left, so I am going to go ahead and put the brown sugar in them at this point. Now, it said anywhere from 2 to 4 tablespoons, so here's my brown sugar. I am just going to go ahead and do just a couple little scoops in here and get that mixed in and incorporated really well. So we'll let those go for about another 10 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get my kitchen cleaned up. And then after that, we can start on that recipe. So I feel like all of these are pretty easy and relatively quick to do. The only one that's the most time consuming, obviously, is the caramelized onions because these have been sitting on my stove for about 40 minutes. But otherwise, all the recipes were pretty quick and painless, so that's nice. So I'm gonna get this stuff cleaned up and I'll meet you back in about 10-ish minutes. Okay guys, so my husband just got home and he's gonna try the cranberry bites that I made. It's croissant with cranberry sauce, pecan, and brie cheese with rosemary and seasonings.
I don't know what brie cheese is.
Yeah, you probably have never had it.
Good.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a super big fan of brie cheese because it has like a really like tart bite to it, but it works really good with the cranberry sauce.
Definitely tastes the tartness. But...
I think it works good with it though because the cranberries are super sweet. I really like those.
Yeah.
I think that your mom and dad will really like them too.
Those would be good for like a holiday treat.
Yeah. He didn't get a deer, he said. I was telling them that you were out hunting this morning, but no bucks.
No bucks.
No bucks.
Seen a bunch of smaller ones, but no big ones.
Darn it. Yeah, I was telling them that we might have to process a deer, but you did not get one. That's okay though. All right, guys, so sorry that things are a little bit cluttered right now, but the next step in this caramelized onion bacon dip, so the onions are completely done. I'm gonna start cutting up some of this bacon, and then we will start getting all the rest of the ingredients added and getting this baked up. My husband stole some of my bacon. That's okay though. I think that this will be more than plenty. Anybody else have a husband that comes home and is picking through all of the goodies before you can get them made into something else? Now, feel free to like measure this stuff out. One of the ingredients I'm not going to measure out. It's a half a cup of sour cream. I'm just going to put a couple dollops in there. But I'm going to get some of the bacon in here. And then we will do a couple scoops of the onions. And then we will add the cheese and cream cheese and sour cream and get that mixed up. And then top the top of it with more of the onions and the bacon. And you basically just want to cut the bacon down into bite-sized pieces so that it can get on a cracker. And if you were wondering why I left the onions really, really long instead of dicing them, they do shrink down quite a bit, and I will show you what those look like. Now, if you wanted to dice them for the dip, go for it. I just find that it's a little bit more pleasing whenever you leave them a little bit longer. So that's how I make it, but you definitely don't have to do it that way. Okay, and then here is our caramelized onions. So I'm just gonna take about half and put it in with our bacon. And then we will use the other half to kind of mix into the top of the other stuff that we add. So next, after that, in your little dish, and it can be whatever size dish you want. I probably could have went with a smaller dish, but that's okay. This one has a lid that goes with it, and I thought it would be easier to store it in the refrigerator that way. So then we need 1 block of softened cream cheese. And definitely make sure it's softened, you guys, because you do have to mix this in. If it's cold, it's going to be a pain in the butt to try and combine it. So this has just been sitting on my counter for, I don't know, since this morning probably. Okay, I did have to go ahead and pop that in the microwave for a minute, so just to be able to give this like a really, really, really good mix here. Okay, so after getting this mixed up just a little bit, now this does call for half a cup of sour cream. If you would like to measure that out, like I said, go for it. I'm just gonna do a couple of scoops. And get that in there. And then I am also going to start adding in a little bit of our Gruyere cheese. Maybe like half of it. Kind of start to get that incorporated. And I'm going to add in just a little bit of garlic salt. Then I'm going to add in some more of our caramelized onions. Here is what that is looking like so far. And then I'm going to go ahead and top it with just a little bit more of the cheese. And then I'm also going to go ahead and cut up just a little bit more of this bacon to put on top of that as well. All right, so this is ready to go in the oven at 350 and then cook it until the top is nice and gold and bubbly. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the oven. Oh, wow, you guys, look at how beautiful. That looks incredible. Let me get you guys over here so you can see it better. Doesn't that look good? Oh my goodness, that looks so good. Okay, so Brie bites are done. They got an A+ from me and my husband. Sweet potato gratin here needs to cool down, and I just got the caramelized onion and bacon dip in the oven. So we will see what that's looking like in about 20-ish minutes and give the other two things a taste. I cannot wait to try this. It looks delicious with the Gouda cheese. I've never made a dish like that with Gouda cheese, so I'm really, really excited to give it a try. I think it's gonna be absolutely delicious. Okay, so the caramelized onion bacon dip is done, and it smells incredible, you guys. I'm gonna have my husband come and taste both of the other recipes with us and give his honest review and opinion. But I think he's really going to enjoy them, and I don't know if any of this is going to make it to our in-laws' house tomorrow. We'll see. And here is the spread. Doesn't it all look beautiful? Looks so good. So my husband's gonna try the sweet potato gratin. I think I've been saying that wrong the whole time. I don't know if it's gratin or gratin, but he's gonna try it. He wasn't a super big fan of sweet potatoes, and now he likes them. So we'll see what he rates this. Honest review. Okay, so that one's got the Gouda cheese, cream cheese, or no, not cream cheese, sorry. It's got heavy cream, milk, Gouda cheese, garlic, and rosemary, and it's layered.
What's that called?
Sweet potato gratin or gratin. I don't know. I've been saying gratin this whole time, but it could be gratin. I'm not sure.
It's all gratin.
No, it's not. Yeah, potato au gratin.
Au gratin.
A gratin? Okay,
Au
well,
gratin.
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Do you like it?
Au gratin potatoes. Which one? It was that one?
Yeah.
It was good.
What do you give it out of 10?
Like,
I have to think about it.
probably like a 6.5.
Okay, 6.5. All right, so now I'm gonna get a new spoon and I'm gonna have him try the caramelized onion bacon dip on a cracker. And I just have the Great Value butter crackers, but you can use whatever kind of cracker, or you could even put it on a chip if you wanted. So this has cream cheese, caramelized onions, bacon, and the Gruyere cheese. And I have a feeling that this is the one I was telling him is not gonna make it to the in-laws tomorrow if we go, for them to try these dishes. Because I know this is gonna be really good. Careful, it might be kind of hot. What do you think?
It's like an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say 10 out of 10. I tried it. I tried that dip before he tried it, and I give it a 10 out of 10. It's really, really good. So
I could bump it up to a 9.
A 9?
I'll go 9.
Okay, he went 9. 9 on the caramelized bacon dip. So if you have to rate them, like 1, 2, 3, what's your favorite, and then least favorite?
1, 2, 3.
So the dip being the favorite, which I agree. I think the dip is the best one. And then the sweet potato dish, number 2. But the cranberry brie bites are also really good. So I don't know. I think it's a really good twist on all of this stuff. And like I said, none of it really took me that long except caramelizing the onions. So I think any of them would be a really good thing to bring to your holiday dinner. So
Delicious.
Delicious.
Good job, Ed.
Thanks.
So let's finish this video up together by finishing making the blueberry vinaigrette that I promised you guys I would make with you in the last video. If you have not seen that, go back and watch it. But basically, this has been sitting on my counter for about 4 days now. So I am going to strain out all of the blueberries and utilize the vinaigrette liquid in the bottom. So go ahead and do that and then transfer this over to a stock pot. Now you could just strain it directly in a stock pot. I just wasn't thinking about it. I added about half a cup of sugar, so you're going to have to play around with the ratios and what works well for you. Add more sugar or less sugar to your vinaigrette to obtain the flavor that you would like. Now, this is not a thick vinaigrette, you guys. If you want to make it incredibly thick, you're going to have to add more sugar, but I prefer less sugar so that you can actually taste the fruit vinegar flavor. So now I'm just going to go back and fill up each one of these jars with the liquid. We're going to leave about 1/4 of an inch of headspace, and that's what I'm doing with the leftovers that was just in the other jar that I had. Make sure you wipe your rims down really, really good. Because there is sugar in this, you don't want any sticky components left on the band of the jar itself. That will ultimately inhibit a good seal. So make sure you wipe those down really good. And then this leftover portion that didn't fill a jar, I'm just placing a ball leak-proof lid on the top of it. I will link them down below for you guys. These are really nice so that you don't have to waste a lid and a band on something that's just going to sit in your refrigerator. And that allows me to utilize some of the other ones that I have for jars that I want to process. So I got the lids and the rings on those, and I'm just setting them in a stock pot. I bought extra racks to fit some of my other stock pots that I have at the house so I can utilize them for water bath canning. Now I'm just getting some water put in here. Make sure you leave 1 inch to 2 inches of water above your jars to cover them. Process them for 10 minutes, and here they are coming out of the canner. If you've never tried this before, I would highly recommend. So thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.